My Digital Story, John Hegarty's Journey Through UEDU 5010. Let me first start with giving you an outline of my digital diary. The first part will be, I will give you a little bit about my background and where I thought my thought process was at the beginning of class. The second part will be about the first half of class and the things I learned there. The second half of class, my journey and where my thought process is now, and what I must do in the future after having taken this class. I grew up in Libertyville, Illinois. It's an affluent suburb of northern Chicago. Population of around 10,000 people. I went to a Catholic grade school, and then I proceeded to an all-boys Catholic prep high school, where 99.9% of the graduates went on to college. In my graduating class, there were only 142 boys, and of these 142, 2 were people of color. After high school, I graduated. I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I went there for 4 years, and after I graduated from University of Illinois, I moved out to San Diego, California, where I started the next phase of my life. These are my parents, Ben and Peggy Mall. My dad has been a director of planning for the Department of Defense for over 30 years. He has a master's in electrical engineering. And this is my mother, Peggy O'Malley, who is first generation Irish and has been raising 5 children as a stay-at-home mom. All of us range within about 13 years of each other. They live in Dana Point now, California, and they have since the 1990s, a really nice area of Southern California. And as I told you, I grew up in Libertyville. These are my 3 sisters. There's Kelly, there's Ann, and there's Mary. Mary's the oldest, Ann is the youngest, and Kelly is the middle. This is my wife, Stacy, whom I met at work in Santa Ana, California. I was a corporate financial analyst working at our corporate center in Santa Ana, while she was the president of one of our colleges in Virginia. We dated for about 3 months. I proposed, and we got married in 2006. In October of 2008, after going through the tough process of in vitro fertilization, our daughter Sophie was born. My mom, sister, and little brother were so happy. Little did I know that my younger brother would die in less than 4 years from this picture. He would die from a heart attack. And it was his death that made me remember how life is so short and so fragile. Having Sophie and my own family really changed my life perspective 180 degrees. Before, all I cared about was making money and having fun, but that all changed after Sophie's birth. I quit my job after 10 years at Corinthian colleges, and I became a full-time stay-at-home dad. I helped my wife with her career. And we moved in 2007 to Connecticut. In 2009, we moved to Chicago. And in 2013, we moved to Denver. I regret nothing about this decision. Raising Sophie also raised my awareness to life around me, and I have wanted to leave my mark on this world. I did not want to go back to work for some giant corporation. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. It was during those 6 years of being a stay-at-home dad that I decided I wanted to become a teacher. One of the first topics we approached was this idea of whiteness. Now, whiteness is most often defined as a process or a system of domination that privileges people perceived to be white over people of color. Also, a challenging characteristic of whiteness, and one of its articulations, colorblind racism, is that it forms an impregnable yet elastic wall that barricades whites from the United States racial reality. Now, I knew that this idea of whiteness existed, but I did not know how it affected people of color. And for that understanding, I thank this course, and I know it will make me a stronger teacher. Another topic we covered was the idea of conscientization. This idea makes you think logically about what is really going on in our schools and in our country. Quoting Berta Avila, in the context of the classroom, Wink 1997 states, conscientization is validation of one's own reality and is having the voice to question one's own paradigms and the paradigms of institutions that are not just. When you can see the injustice in your own institutions and in your own way of thinking, then logically you have to change your thinking if you believe in equality for everyone. We also talked about white guilt, the feeling that it is hard to talk about racism out loud because white people are the cause and I'm white. However, Dr. Matthias explained quite well what we white teachers must do about this guilt we have. And I quote, "White teacher candidates must relearn to relearn their emotions. Instead of resonating in guilt, ferociously denying the saliency of race or crying emotional angst, they must be redirected to racially just projects. For example, it is okay to be angry, sad, and guilty, but then transform those feelings to projects of anti-racism, despite the discomfort to feel again." I would like to read an excerpt from my first session reflection, answering the question, just what do I plan on doing in the future? And this is what I wrote. What do I plan to do? Just learn more about the urban community and get to know as much as I can about the culture so I can be a more effective teacher. How can I do this? Go visit my wife's school. It is a trade college with the majority of the students being minorities. And just sit in some classes and hang out in the break room and maybe just ask some questions and observe. Well, I got some feedback, and here it is. From the feedback I received from my work from Mr. Sado was to ask myself, what am I going to do personally? My way of thinking, and to look inside myself, and not to let others do the work for me. It made total sense at the time. I was answering a question saying, what could others do for me? What could I observe when I really should be looking about changing what's inside myself? Now, the second half of our course did get a little more positive near the end. But first, let me start with a quote from Dr. Wolf about recognition and non-oppression. Consistent with an equal opportunity framework, Howe endorses a virtue of recognition and a principle of non-oppression. Recognition moves us beyond mere tolerance toward respect for differences. Non-oppression protects marginalized groups that are often precluded from meaningful democratic participation. There is an implicit focus on understanding ourselves as a multicultural community and acknowledgement of the importance of respecting the members of our community in all of our diversity. I gleaned 3 threads or main points on how to be a good teacher from the article written by Villegas and Lucas, written in 2002, titled Preparing Culturally Responsive Teachers, Rethinking the Curriculum. And the 3 points are, 1, have an understanding that students' ways of thinking, behaving, and being are deeply influenced by such factors as race and ethnicity, social class, and language. 2, have an affirming attitude towards students who differ from the dominant culture. And 3, ask prospective teachers to develop the commitment and skills to act as agents of change. Hopefully, following these 3 points, I can become a culturally responsive teacher. I now am going to share with you my last session reflection, so you can see the growth I have made in this class. I just have to continually work on myself. I cannot put the burden on people of color or any other group for that matter. I must question what I see around me and see if it passes the smell test. If it smells rotten, then it most likely is. I have to come to terms with my feelings and how I was raised in order to be not just a more effective urban teacher, but also just a better human on this planet. As Helm posits, one can only guide others in racial identity development if and only if they first take that journey themselves. Finally, there has to be some hope for me in this system. At least I have to believe there is hope for me to become an effective teacher. I want to be an urban teacher, and although this class made me face some hard realities about our country, its people, and its educational system, and how tough it is going to be for me and most likely not very enjoyable. I just don't want to believe that. There is good out there, and I will make it a point to find that good and make it grow. I want to have fun being a teacher, and I know it will be, and I have to remember this whole process is about the students. And that is the end of my digital diary. I hope you all enjoy.